Before I start with this episode, I just want to give a quick shout out to Podmetrics. Yup, Podmetrics is the platform I use to get all the data I need for the show. From who listens to me, all the way to where they come from, Podmetrics takes care of all of that so I can make better content for you. You can even integrate Podmetrics with Facebook and YouTube so you can get more data from your live streams. So if you're a podcaster or want to start your own podcast, go visit podmetrics.co and sign up for free. Use my code JakeOfAllTradesWithDelRo. With that out of the way, cue the intro music. What is going on, everybody? Kamusta kayo lahat mula sa Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, or wherever the heck you are on the planet? This is your one and only Jake of All Trades, the place to be for any niche, every genre, and all generations. I am your master of ceremony, D to the E to the LRO, aka JDR, aka the extraordinary introvert. So, kamusta tayo lahat dyan, mga pare ko at mga iha and all that, mga ate girl. Sorry for my words, but that is because today we are paying homage. We're going to pay our dues and we're going to just simply appreciate our Filipino culture since ayun na nga, patapos na yung buwan ng Wika, and it's only fitting that we end the month with an episode dedicated to our very rich and our very progressive culture. And also, by the way, before we start, I would like to apologize in advance if I don't get to post twice a week as I usually promise. As you can see, I've just began work and it's very hard to balance, but I guarantee you guys there will always be at least one upload a week. But as far as the Monday and Friday uploads, Fridays I seldom or sometimes post, but you will always receive an episode on Mondays always. So that is a promise that I attempt or that I aim to keep for you guys. All right, so with all the logistics out of the way, let's get to the show. Since I mentioned kanina buwan ng Wika patapos na, so it's only fitting that we cap off the month with an episode dedicated to it. And what better resource person to get than one of my closest college friends, or actually he's like a couple of years older than me now, but as I was going through my college life, we really just had a pretty solid bond because nag-fieldwork kami sa Vegan back in 2018, and this guy really knows his stuff, from Filipino culture to being an ethnographer to even being a TV host. I really picked the right person for this episode. So ladies and gentlemen, he will just introduce himself to us later. Let's give it up for Mark Vincent Ong.
Hi everyone.
How was that intro, Mark? Did you like it?
So, oh my goodness. Well, I really appreciate the couple of years old because I think we're kind of like we have an age difference. So thanks for making me feel as younger than what I really am.
It's no problem, bro. So yeah, that's Mark Ong for you guys. So by all means, the floor is now yours. Go ahead and introduce yourself to my listeners.
All right. Hi everyone. My name is Mark Ong. I am a anthropology graduate student at the Ateneo de Manila University, and I also work as a language instructor, and I also do TV hosting part-time. But because of what's going on right now, I haven't been doing that a lot. So yeah, so that's basically what I do.
Wow, galing. So as you can see, even before the pandemic, he was really busy. He had his hands full. He is an ethnographer. He is, if I'm not mistaken, you're currently pursuing your MA in anthropology, right?
Right, anthropology.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny he mentioned that because he's been all over the world basically. So he's been to Poland, he's been to Russia, he's been to all the different parts of Europe and even Asia. So yeah, his palette for Filipino culture is just off the charts. And as I mentioned kanina, like super grateful to have him here, and he will really give us a lot of his knowledge and just a lot of anecdotes that we could use for this episode and just the overall appreciation of our Filipino culture. So before we start, as I mentioned, you yourself, you've had experience being an ethnographer, whether it's doing
Right.
local ethnography, like what we did in 2018 sa Ilocos Sur,
Vegan.
yep, or what you're doing, or what you've been doing, like even before the new normal happened, touring
Uh-huh.
around Europe, Asia. So what is it like being a quote-unquote digital nomad, or just an ethnographer in the 21st century?
Well, I wouldn't really classify as I really wouldn't classify myself as a digital nomad, no. But I'm just like a simple person who loves cultures. I'm a very curious person. Growing up as a Chinese Filipino, I think that my own multicultural identity kind of like shaped me to become more curious about things that are totally different from me, because bilang mga Chinoy, no, sometimes Filipinos still see us something as a little bit different, a little bit not so normal, na parang um we're kind of like a minority dito. So I kind of grew up with a lot of misconceptions. I kind of grew up with a lot of people thinking na, "Oy, Chinoy ka, parang how's life being like that?" And I just realized that, it made me kind of appreciate being unique and being different, and it also helped me appreciate the cultural differences that we have. So that made me more curious. So when I started working, I decided to use some of my savings to do a little bit of traveling, to visit my old friends, the friends that I made during my term as an exchange student. And then tapos tawag dito, yung mga friends na meet ko along the way during my volunteer work in Poland. Sometimes I would visit them if I have time, and of course I have the money, so I'm trying to kind of like budget everything now. Then and basically it's more of like through my travels I get to learn more about other people, their lifestyles, their culture, and I feel that I wanted to include that in my field of study.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. Your approach. I love how you're able to just diversify your palette, at least your cultural palette, with other people that you meet from different parts of the world. And I love how you're able to incorporate that in your study. But
Right.
how's it right now? I'm sure, let's be honest, this is torture for you, because usually by this time you're about to hop on a plane or just head on over to a bus station to head over to this province or this new island, new country.
Right.
So now na naka-quarantine tayong lahat, like, has it been a difficult transition or adjustment for you from being all over the place to just being cooped up in your homes or in your house, like doing research and all that stuff?
Ay, sa totoo lang, sobra siyang nakakapanibago. It's something that I'm still not really used to, and it has been like really difficult because I'm more of like an outgoing person. I don't like spending spending most of my time in locked up in my room, because parang feeling mo nakaka-depress siya, nakaka tawag dito, medyo parang feeling mo wala ka nang magawa. So I felt that at one point after like siguro like 1.5 months of being in quarantine, I just realized na teka, parang I have to do something. Di naman ako pwedeng naka-idle lang, no? Hindi lang ako pwede na walang ginagawa lang, no? So I kind of like use the time to work on my thesis, of course, and a thesis proposal, actually proposal stage pa lang siya. And also learn new languages, and I joined a lot of groups, language exchange groups, and that's when I got more ideas in terms of language promotion, because a lot of I realized that a lot of people are trying to use this pandemic or quarantine period, depende sa country nila, to really share to really share their language and their culture through many different platforms online, like through online classes, through Zoom meetings, through Facebook groups. So I felt that it was a really great initiative. I learned a lot from it, and I was thinking of including some of that methodology in my own research. And I wanted to do something to help spread or rather promote our culture and language.
Okay, that's gets naman. So di naman mahirap yung paperwork, because I remember you told me, I think sometime last year, na after doing all your field work either abroad or out of town, puro paperwork na lang on the proposal or methodology. So it hasn't been difficult naman for you, so to speak.
Well, sa totoo lang, writing a legit research paper is something quite new to me, because I graduated a business major, so we didn't have any thesis. Although it's so weird because at first you would think na parang hey, it's something that really interests me, so it wouldn't be like too difficult to write a research paper on that topic. Pero after that, ma-realize mo na parang, ay wait, teka, medyo tricky din pala to, no? So it's really a lot of like reading, a lot of practice, a lot of like a lot of like revisions. But it's also good in such a way that you get to explore a little bit more. So with every frustration that comes with the need to revise your proposal, or the need to change a little bit of your topic or your topic, you get to learn so much things, especially in terms of whatever you're studying.
Gets. So at least hindi naman mahirap, and I can see naman that you're able to incorporate some of the stuff you learned from going out of the country, or just going to different provinces, and just incorporating it lang in your methodology or your frameworks and all that stuff. So at least
right
okay naman yung research process for you.
Well, what I love about anthropology, it's something very flexible. It's so dynamic, because human culture is, it's not fixed. It always changes. Like every minute there's always something new coming out. So given our current situation right now, I think like humans are just like really, we're really tawag dito.
They can adapt to anything.
Sobrang we're adaptable. We're really adaptable. Like we're super duper flexible. If for example we can't go out anymore, we just look for other ways to stay connected. Look for other ways to continue with whatever we're doing. It's like it's no wonder that we're like the smartest living creatures on this planet, because we really learn how to adapt. So with that, it's like I really got to see a lot of change in this new normal, and I learned so many different methods of trying to in case of the field, in the case of my field, and my topic, language promotion. So I was so impressed that instead of like traveling, instead of like Zoom, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, my goodness, I was so surprised that people have been doing like classes or tutorials via Instagram Live. So talagang makita mo na sobrang flexible talaga yung mga tao, like sobrang creative natin, no? And to be honest, personally, that's something I need to catch up on.
Yeah, that's so true.
Kasi problem is super hindi ako techie na. Sobrang hindi ako techie na tao. Like like lahat ng mga natotouch kong computer nasisira. So I'm just like exaggerating, of course, but it's something that it's something that I really need to catch up using harnessing technology.
Yeah, I like what you said about the whole we can adapt to any given circumstance or situation. And now this brings us to our main discussion. So for my viewers, as you can see, nakabis kaming dalawa. So let Professor Jake and Professor Mark enter your virtual classrooms. So I highly suggest this is the part where magtala kayo ng mga notes. No, we're just kidding. But this is the part where we hope to give you guys as much knowledge and info as much as possible. But don't worry, casual kwentuhan naman to. So hopefully di kayo ma-burn out or ma-overload with all the information. So now let's talk about appreciating other cultures. So as you said, madali tayo mag-adopt and adapt to different cultures, different styles. And as you can see, sobrang daming forms of culture na pumapasok sa bansa natin ngayon. So recently we have the K-pop boom. Ngayon may K-drama with Chloe and all these other Korean telenovelas. We also have a lot of Chinese products pa rin, or just Chinese influence in general. And then of course the West just never goes away. You have a lot of US influence pa rin in our daily lives with the whole technology and all that stuff. So as much as this influx of cultures and banyagang banyagang kultura, I'm sorry, but basically you guys get the point. As much as there's so much content from other regions and other countries, is it a good or is it a bad thing for our own local culture in general? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, to be honest, when you think about Philippine culture or pag sinasabi nating Filipino identity, no, we have always been a mix. So if you look at our history, we used to be, we were talaga we were in a strategic location, no? So people really passed by us when they wanted to do trade. So talaga, like, for example, my ancestors were like, came here mga like centuries ago pa as traders from China. Southern part of China, no? And and of course, if you see like you see, and it's also reflected in our culture as well, in our modern culture, and even in our language. A lot of our because when you think about Philippine culture or the Filipino identity, so to speak, no, it's really rooted in our multicultural makeup, no. Because if you notice, no, we are talaga in a really strategic location. So people really passed by us, and we were actually an international port back then. No, when during when we were under Spanish colonization. So talagang tayo link, no, nagle-link tayo link, no, between the Americas and different parts of Asia. So this tapos like back then we have a lot of for example, my ancestors came from the southern part of what is now China, no, and they did a lot of trading, and a lot of them, and some of them decided to settle down here, and those were one of the first few Chinese Filipinos who settled in what is now the Philippine Islands. So talagang for me Filipino culture is something that it's really like it's just a mix of everything. It's local, it's indigenous, and it's foreign, and they all form our identity. It's something that you cannot take away. It's something that you simply cannot take away. I would like to think of it as a tower of Jenga. Kasi parang if you just take one block away, parang bilis lang, the whole thing collapses. So it won't be the same if you're gonna be like, oh, let's take away all of these influences. Tanggalin na lang natin yung like lahat ng mga Spanish influences. But then how would our lifestyle be? I mean, we're so used to using tinidor, kutsara, cuchillo, kasi dati naman we were, traditionally we would eat with our hands, no? So taking those away, it's going to be a huge change. How are we going to live with that? It's going to be very difficult. And even sa Tagalog natin, no, even when we speak Tagalog, there's so many words that come from that were actually foreign loan words. I'll give you a very good example. Actually, I wouldn't say this. I wouldn't consider it as a bad word, so to speak. But the word "wisit" is actually from Chinese, Hokkien Chinese specifically.
Wow.
Because it's so interesting, though. Like, ako as a Hokkien speaker, I also felt like, oh my goodness, I never realized that it's so ingrained within us. Because the word "wisit" is so common many Filipinos, no?
Yeah.
Buwisit actually comes from bo isit. Bo means nothing or wala. I is like clothes. Sit is like food. So kung wala kang clothes, wala kang makain, then nakakainis yung buhay.
Visit talaga.
Buwisit talaga, right? So it's imagine how so ingrained are how so ingrained these influences are to our modern identity, and I think that's something that we should celebrate, and we should celebrate, being multicultural.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, if you take away one aspect of culture, kahit banyaga siya, like, the whole puzzle just gets destroyed. Like, if you take YouTube,
Right.
for example, let's say tanggalin mo yung YouTube. The thing is, we're in 2020 right now, and parang our main means of learning is through video or just through
Right.
these technological means. And the indigenous dialects, the way we converse in different languages, if anything, you can still learn them. Like, don't get me wrong. Pero sobrang mahihirapan, especially if you take away these resources that YouTube or Facebook or IG, they're all giving us. So I think tama ka nga when you say na it's really about incorporating different cultures and just making sure
Right.
to use them for the holistic experience of just enriching our culture. However, I think
Right,
as much as these other facets are important, I think, to be quite frank, like over the years or even months, parang nade-disregard yung sarili nating kultura. Like, no one really knows what the binakul is anymore, or no one really knows what you're wearing right now, which is a gourd hat, by the way. So, I guess the only concern, like, if you're a linguistics professor or if you're a diehard fan of your own cultural heritage, like, paano na yung lokal na kultura natin, like, bilang mga Pilipino? And to think na Filipino is not the only language we have. Like, we have hundreds of thousands of dialects to learn pa. So, what do you think is like the state of our Philippine culture with the sudden rise of different cultures all around the world?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. So unang-una, globalization it's a good thing, but it also has its negative aspects, no? We shouldn't let too much foreign influence like take over what we really are, no? Diba? And we also have to consider that we're all a product of intercultural exchange. Like, even the most isolated groups or tribes, like in the remote areas of some mga nasa island, they all have some contact with siguro a neighboring tribe, and they share so much, like they share so much ideas, no? So we're all a product of these exchange of ideas. So talagang there is no such thing as a completely pure culture. Even if you're talking about something that's really, really indigenous, like way back then, they're all a product of exchange. Now, again, no, I started off by saying that globalization can also have its negative effects, right? So I think this is a very tricky situation, especially now we're also interconnected and globalized, and we also have to admit that some cultures and influences are more dominant than others. So I think the way to address that is cultural self-awareness and education. Because it's more of like a lot of people are just so kind of like blinded by accepting whatever they have, whatever they see, whatever they have, what is trendy. But then again, we also have to consider that cultural identity is so important. It's something that should be shared, and we also have to learn how it came to be, its origins, and bakit nga ginagawa natin to? Kasi a lot of people parang we take things in general for granted. Hindi natin parang di tayo mulat na bakit natin to ginagawa. I think people are really getting more and more getting less and less self-aware in terms of their own culture, or and also in terms of be in tawag dito, they're self-aware, being self-aware, no? So parang I feel that we really need to kind of like boost our cultural education and make people more aware of why why we have these things, and why we practice such customs and traditions, and why we yeah no
Yeah, that is so true. I think sa tama ka when you say na education or just passing it on to the Filipino masses or just students in general,
Right.
like making us more aware of the different cultures or how rich we are with the different
Mhm.
dialects, languages. I think it's really important to just pass down the knowledge. And I actually have to give our group, because guys, if you don't know Mark and I, and even our group mate Nikki, shout out to Nikki Dolfo, like wherever you are, I hope you're listening.
Hi,
We
Nikki.
Yes. Yeah, sana nga mag-reunion tayo one of these days. But we actually did a study back in Vegan back in 2018, and we were assigned to do educational modules for, I think, Vegan West National High School. Doc Z, Ma'am Nota, if you guys are watching, please correct us if we're wrong. But yeah, we did a project, or we did a group. Our topic was on finding modules and different learning exercises for the high school students in Vegan, or just Ilocos in general, with regards to how they can enrich their culture, with regards to the different trivial facts that can really just
Right.
enrich their knowledge and their understanding of local culture. So with that group project that we just did like a couple of years back, do you think kaya ng mga ibang paaralan to incorporate such modules, or is it a big time act, or is it like a major project na medyo mahirap, medyo it's not as viable as compared to like small based schools, whether private or public? Like, do you think it can be passed on to different provinces, different schools, and maybe even universities, hopefully?
I think definitely viable, but it's still feasible, no? Because it all starts with self-awareness and tawag dito, and making people really more aware of what they are, you know, as a what they are, you know, in terms of their own cultural identity, and also boils down then to making them proud of who they are, no? Kasi like for example, when we were chatting with the students, and ako naman personally, I love gardening. I really appreciate like handicrafts. And diba parang we were doing on the module sa damili, or yung earthenware pot, or pa yung palayok sa Tagalog.
Yeah,
I was like so impressed na parang, diba, naalala mo? So ako parang personally, sobrang na-impressed talaga ako, kasi parang it's something so innate in them na parang, you know, they've been doing it for a long time. It's part of their tradition, and it's really sad na, you know, the younger generation doesn't really doesn't really
appreciate
think of it as important. But it's actually it's personally something that we can really show to the different parts of the Philippines, especially those who are not from the Ilocos region, no? Ako personally, I really appreciate this, itong gourd hat natin, itong gourd hat ng Ilocos, no? It's this yung ano yan, yung katukong nga tabungaw, or the gourd hat, and it's actually a dying tradition. Like I think there are only 2 artisans left, and you know, I was just really so impressed, you know, when our professor Doc C told us all about it, you know, like na parang it's a dying tradition, and I felt that it's something that needs to be shared. So when I decided to buy this from one of the artisans, I told them that parang one of these days I really wanted to show this to everybody, especially my foreign friends. Because I just really can't let something so precious, something that's so uniquely Filipino and Ilocano, well, it's an Ilocano, go to parang just be ignored. I can't just let that be ignored. So that the following year after nung ano natin no, nung yung work natin, I went to the Asian Cup to support the Azcals, and I was so impressed because like when I saw the other fans, like ang dami nilang naka-costume, like the Chinese fans were in costume, the Korean fans were in costume, even Kyrgyzstan, which they viewed the same year as us, were in costumes, and they had really like talagang fancy gear, like they're all in their traditional hats, they had their traditional vests, and I was the only Filipino fan with something that screams, traditional and local, Filipino culture and Filipino tawag dito, culture and custom. So I wanted to really show what we really had. And one of the fans in Dubai was Ilocano, and nakita niya, tapos sinabi niya parang, Uy, katukong to, buti naman na dinala mo. Tapos ako parang, uy, okay to, parang, and it was nice having a selfie with one of the Kyrgyz fans and with their own traditional hat. Tapos ako with this katukong. I felt that alone was already enough to give us some exposure to the world, whatever we had. So it's just like a sneak peek of what we have to offer to the world. And I felt that at that point I felt that it's something that we can do, especially with the power of social media. It's something that we can show to a wide range of audience, no? So I feel it starts, it's feasible, but it also starts with It really starts with self-awareness. It starts with making the youth, no, making people, especially the youth, appreciate what they really have. And because in my years of traveling, I realized that cultural exchange is just a matter of like storytelling. It's like an exchange of stories. Uy, alam mo ba na kami meron tayong ganito? Meron kaming ganito. Kayo, ano meron kayo? It's like, oh, we also have this, ganito yung pagkain namin. So everything is just like, it's just like sharing your own story. And I think, and people want to share what they have. People really are just so happy to share their own experiences. So why not take that advantage? So I really think it starts with a little bit of self-awareness. Then through that, we start with educational programs and modules.
Yeah, that's true. I couldn't agree with you more. And yeah, it's actually a pretty proud moment. Like not just for you, but for like Filipinos overseas. Like that's how you represent the country right there. You don't just wear like the Filipino shirt, or you don't just bring a flag. Like you literally showcase other people's or other ethnic groups, like culture, kung ano yung nagmamalaki nila. Like you have to really showcase it to the whole world. Like you can't just, it's not enough now you just wear a Filipino flag or you just hold a flag to showcase your quote-unquote your Pinoy pride. Like for me, di sapat yan talaga. It's all about exposing other countries to stuff that hardly gets talked about, but is one of the main prides of that particular region or that particular group.
Right.
So since you showed the guard hat, allow me to show you my little pasalubong here. So wala lang, jeepney lang to. Pero at the same time, kahit simpleng bagay lang to, this is actually the heart and soul of like Philippine transportation, believe it or not. So as you guys know, the jeepney is one of the most beloved transportations or vehicles in our country, and hopefully, once matapos na tong pandemyang to, like makaka-operate ulit yung mga traditional jeepneys, because they really deserve our love. They really deserve all the respect from us, and sana makatulong tayo in our own little way. So yeah, the jeepney is what I have to show for today. So with that in mind, allow me to digress a little bit. But so far, okay naman yung mga sinasabi mo. I really love that story of how you showcased your Pinoy pride, but not just through saying Tagalog words or wearing the Filipino colors, but by literally showcasing stuff that hardly gets seen and hardly gets talked about. But now that we have that out of the way, uh, I want to talk about yung pag-measure, like how do you measure one's patriotism or one's love for country. So, for example, like let's say ako, like I'll be honest, like sobrang hindi ako magaling masyado mag-Tagalog. Like minsan baluktot yung mga sinasabi ko. And for the casual listeners, I don't blame you if you consider me conyo and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
let's talk about, I guess, patriotism and how it is measured nowadays. So let's say kung di ka magaling mag-Tagalog or you're not as knowledgeable as compared to the likes of Mark Ong or Doxy. Does that make you less of a Filipino? Does that make you less patriotic? Or is that just a misconception, or is that like very misconstrued, especially now in this digital age that we're living in?
Absolutely not. If there's one thing that I learned from interacting with people from different countries, it's really all about being able to share your own experiences. Like all of us, we live in the Philippines, where we come from different regions. We come from different walks of life, and so we have our stories we have our own stories to tell from the Philippines, from our own experience, and from what we know. So one of the things that I really learned, no, from interacting with foreigners is talagang it's all about being able to share your own experiences. It's really all about storytelling. Kasi dito naman sa Pilipinas, like doesn't matter where you come from. I mean, we still eat more or less the same dishes. Well, regional varieties, regional differences, of course, aside. But we know what is something that's so typical in our country, in our respective regions, in our respective provinces, and that alone, coupled with a little bit of awareness, cultural and self-awareness, is enough to show how patriotic we are. Like for example, I remember nung nasa vegan tayo, I wanted to tell one of the kids na parang, uy, kasi one of the kids are like, uy, mahilig ka sa K-pop, ganun. And they were like, oh, do you want to have some Korean friends? Tapos sabi niya, wala pa po. Tapos I was like, uy, alam mo, kapag nagkaroon na kayo ng mga Korean friends, pakita mo sa kanila kung ano man meron kayo, no? Like yung damiri, yung pottery, no? Pakita mo yung inabel. Ako sobrang ganda ng inabel. Like personally, this is inabel. this is inabel.
Yes.
So I wanted them to be proud of who they are, like to be proud of their origins, to be proud of their roots. And it's something that I realize, alam mo, kasi diba Filipinos, we tend to take our own culture for granted. Minsan medyo mababa yung tingin natin sa sarili nating kultura, sa sarili nating mga tradisyon, no? Pero alam mo ba, one thing na na-realize ko, pagpunta ko sa ibang bansa, natutuwa sila sa atin kasi it's something so different and it's something so unique. And that really made me open my eyes na parang, uy, alam mo ba, parang kunwari, even simple dishes like fruit salad, sinigang, these are so iconic. Like I remember I went to Russia and I made fruit salad. Like talagang nagdala ako ng mga ingredients for fruit salad. Tapos yung mga iba binili ko na lang sa local supermarket. I really had to improvise. And being invited to my Russian friend's house and making that fruit salad, that's already a show of patriotism because you're showing your culture. You're even though it's something na parang automatic sa'yo na parang, uy, sanay na ako sa fruit salad. Gusto ko naman ipakita sa inyo kung, uy, mag-fruit salad naman tayo sa party. So that's already a show of patriotism kasi you're showing something that they're not used to, they don't know. So talagang, tapos, who knows, in the future, they might think na, uy, okay pala to, and they might try to replicate that, no? Pag umalis na ako, who knows, they might even try to replicate that, try to include it in some of their own parties, no? So I always tell, like, talagang sinasabi ko sa mga fellow Filipinos, no? Parang, alam mo, it's time for us to shine in a way that let's show them what we have. It doesn't need to, hindi naman kailangan maging engrande, hindi naman kailangan na talagang, kailangan show them, we show them everything. Talaga, it doesn't really have to have a really, really exquisite presentation. Just show them what we really are. Just teach them our language, show them our culture, show them our food, show them our traditions, show them even our superstitions. One of the things I love is folklore. Minsan kinukwento ko pa nga yung mga manananggal, yung mga aswang. That's something, I mean, these are things that we should really, ang tawag dito, no, be proud of. And by simply sharing those, as in like magkukwento ka lang sa mga kaibigan mong mga banyaga, that's good enough. And if we start from that, that can even that can even help us promote it even more, no, in a bigger scale.
Yeah, well said. So basically, guys, in short, di nyo kailangan ng specialization in cultural heritage, or di nyo kailangan mag-major in Filipino linguistics just to show your patriotism. Like, it's all about just being proud of who you are, and it's really just being original and authentic. Pero most of all, it's all about, wag kayo mahiya na ipakita yung sarili ninyong, or yung sarili nating kultura sa mga ibang tao. Because if you have K-pop idols, or if you have Koreans that are proud of their work or proud of their content, whether it's K-pop music, whether it's K-drama, whether it's Samgyup or all their other products, dapat
cultural exports.
Yes, exactly. Dapat tayo rin. Like, whether sinigang man yan, whether adobo, or kahit yun nga, mga superstitions, or kahit yung mga beliefs ni Lola or whatever, it'll really go a long way when it comes to not just identifying ourselves as Filipinos, but more so just preserving our culture. And this leads me to, like, I think one of my final questions before we wrap it up. What is the state now of our Philippine culture? Like, honestly, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes we forgo it. Sometimes it's been under the radar, to be quite frank, because of all the other influences, the influx of content from around the globe. Minsan naiiwan lang dyan yung sarili nating kultura. So do you think that, well, now that we're in a new decade and for years to come, do you think kaya natin, like, can we pick up where we left from? Because to be honest, there was, like, I think a time where sobrang booming talaga yung Pinoy culture. I think when Wow Philippines, like, had their trailers, when you had It's More Fun in the Philippines, all those ads and all that stuff. Do you think we can come to a point where we can fully showcase our culture? I know we can, but can we come to a point na it'll be well known again, it will be, like, on the top of our radars, and yung mga ibang kulturas, they won't be secondary, but they'll just be, like, supplementary to our very rich and our very well thought out Filipino culture?
Let me just share something with you, no? Talagang one of the people I really admire the most, well, specifically one of the Filipino personalities that I admire the most is Catriona Gray. She was our Miss Philippines, and, well, she eventually won Miss Universe. Yeah, raise your flag. And she really did raise our flag. I was just so impressed kasi she really embodies patriotism in such a way. She really wanted to share what we have. So, if you know her life story, she was born in Australia and she moved to the Philippines when she was 18 or 19 lang ata, to be in touch with her mother's roots, no? And then, she fell in love with the country and decided to stay here, and years later she decided to represent us in both Miss World and Miss Universe. So I felt she really embodies patriotism because she really did a lot of research just to be able to show what we really are and what we really have, no? I love the fact na parang she said na she didn't want to go as herself, but she wanted to go as the whole Philippines. She wanted to bring everybody into the Miss Universe competition. And it was reflected in her national costume. It was reflected in her, even sa mga interview outfits nila, even in her mga OOTD while she was in Thailand representing the Philippines. It really screamed, like she really screamed Philippines. Like she really made sure na none of us is underrepresented or left behind. I love the fact na she went to Pampanga, I think, to research about the parol, which was like the back, the basis of her costume. And then she went to the Visayas pa to research about the pintados, which was like her suit. And then she went to Mindanao to talagang to personally ask permission from the elders of the Tipoli group if she could use her the headpiece, the beads, the boots, and what's that, or well, yeah, those. Oh no, and I felt that it was really noble of her to really make that effort to make sure that we are all represented. And I feel now it's something that we should really emulate. It's something that we can all be our own Catriona Grace in such a way that we can just share whatever we have, like our the beautiful beaches that we have, the food that we usually eat and take for granted. In other countries, it's something of a novelty. I remember when I was in Poland, I cooked champorado, and they know now there's rice porridge and oatmeal, but they never thought na chocolate rice porridge. But then again, talagang ubos. Like I remember cooking it for a cultural event. Wala pa 10 minutes ubos. I was like, oh my goodness, they really love it. So, these simple things, sharing what we have, sharing our customs, our tradition, even if they're superstitions, like pati yung mga tabi-tabi po, kasi ako, I'm superstitious myself. I always say tabi-tabi po when I pass by, when I step on grass. Sometimes, like, it kind of creeps out even, or creeps out my international friends. But I always tell them na, these are just one of the things that make up our identity, like superstitions, stories, folk tales, food, language. Definitely, I'm really proud of being a Tagalog speaker. I love sharing. I love teaching Tagalog to my international friends. It's something that I really am passionate about. It's actually the basis of my thesis topic. And by just doing these things, we can really make a huge difference. So, pag sinasabi natin like the state of our Philippine culture is medyo parang we're kind of like behind in such a way in terms of cultural diplomacy, but we can do this by simply sharing our own stories. Cultural exchange is simply an exchange of stories. It's an exchange of experiences. It's an exchange of ideas. So if we start just by being ourselves and being proud of what we have and not take them for granted, especially if we have international friends or people from outside who we are in contact with. Let's just really share what we have, because chances are, actually I don't want to say chances are, definitely magugustuhan nila. Definitely they will find it interesting. They'll find it something that's really, that they're not used to, something that's unique, something that's really catches their attention, and and it gives us validation.
Yeah.
So let's just be proud of who we are. It doesn't matter kung regional or national aspects of our culture. Like ako as a Chinoy, like, mga Chinoy, we're so different from the other Chinese communities around the world. So talagang yung Chinoy community is really a part of the Philippines. Like our ancestors have been here for centuries. Like nagsimula sila as traders from the southern part of what is now China. Talagang they migrated here and they decided to stay here, settle down, and set up their own business. I mean, like, we're a part of the Philippines. We're part of the multicultural identity. So it doesn't matter kung regional mayon or national yung papakita natin, no? We should be proud of it. At saka, as a multicultural country, a multi-ethnic and a multicultural country, magtulungan din tayo sa pag-promote, no? Like, for example, I'm not Ilocano, but I'm very proud to show, after our field trip, I really wanted to show what, a part of what we have, even though it doesn't really belong. Even though I'm not Ilocano, but it's still a part of the Philippines, and it's still something that I really feel proud, and I really want to show what we have. So talagang magtulungan tayo. Let's really promote what we have here in the Philippines. Doesn't matter, food ba yun, stories man yun, or even language. Let's just show what we really have. Yeah. Let's be proud of that.
Yeah, so guys, in short, support local. Like, that's basically the essence of this whole episode. And I like what Mark said. Like, he introduced his Chinoy roots. And ako naman, as a Phil-Am, like, my mom always says, she may be American by name, pero, yung dugo mo, like, buong pusong Pilipino ka talaga. So, as a Phil-Am, even though I have that American passport with me and all that, like, ipinagmamalaki ka talaga yung pagka-Pilipino ko. And alam ko, minsan nahihirapan ako mag-Tagalog. Once in a while, I'll get insecure about that. And sobrang mahirap pa rin, to appreciate other cultures or our own culture once in a while. Pero, with stories such as yours and with the amount of knowledge that I've been given, all these years, it's really all about paying it forward, and it's all about just taking pride in your own culture and just really claiming it as your own and not being afraid to showcase it around the world. And I guess, before we go, I guess pahabol question. Since I mentioned Pinoy Pride, what do you think about that? Like, the problem I think that I see with Pinoy Pride is kapag someone or a Filipino in a different country like is successful or he thrives, we automatically like are happy about it, which is good naman. But when we have our own kababayans here that are thriving, parang it's not really as given much attention to compared to like those around the world. And given the fact na they may be Filipino, but they're feel this, feel that. So hindi rin masyado sila 100% Pinoy like me. Although me, I'm like 100% Pinoy pa rin, regardless of the affiliation. But I'd like to know, like, what are your thoughts lang on Pinoy Pride? Is it overused too much? Can it get toxic? Or is it still a good concept na kailangan lang may konting fine-tuning here and there?
Ayun, blind patriotism. That's something that we really need to avoid, no? Kasi when we say when you say that we are patriotic, when we say that we love our country, it boils down to really understanding our own culture, our own cultural identity, and being proud of that. So let's go back to the Catriona Gray, no? Kasi when she won Miss Universe, let's just there was actually parang medyo nagkaroon ng controversy na parang Aussie siya kasi she was born in Australia. She lived a huge part of her life in Australia, and she also doesn't speak that much Tagalog. No, she learned it when she relocated here. So people have been asking, is she really Filipina? Does she really represent us? But then again, think about it. When we become proud of her, kasi she won Miss Universe and represent as Miss Philippines, no? Are we proud of her kasi nakakuha tayo ng corona? Or are we proud of her because she really showed what we really have? No, that's something that we really need to talk about, no? Kasi think about it, when Filipinos make, or let's say or foreigners of Filipino ancestry or Filipino origin make waves across the world with their achievements. Talagang inaangkin na natin, Pilipino siya. let's not fall into that trap. No, let's not be blindly patriotic. Because we can be patriotic in our own ways by simply sharing what we have. Like I always go back to that. Let's share what we have. Let's be our own versions of Catriona Gray. No, talagang when you go out there, when you go out, I always say this now. When you go out there, when you go out of the Philippines, or you always have this invisible sash that says Philippines, and it's your when you tawag dito, when you meet people from different backgrounds, they're gonna ask where you come from, and that's basically your time to shine. To say na I'm from the Philippines. Ito yung mga meron sa atin, and that's what Catriona Gray did. So back to that example, no? Are we really proud of her? Kasi talagang sumali siya sa Miss Universe at nanalo siya bilang Miss Philippines? Or are we proud of her dahil nakita natin yung effort na ginawa niya para ipakita kung ano man meron tayo, no? So let's be like that. Let's not be like tarang, uy, ang kinin natin kasi 1/16 Filipino siya, ganyan. Wag naman. Let's be proud of what we are and not take what we have for granted. Remember, when you go out there, as a traveler, as an expat, whatever, when you get out of the Philippines, and it also applies to people from different countries going out of their own respective countries, especially when they travel, when they go abroad for work, there's always going to be that invisible sash that screams the name of your country of origin. So whenever you go out, think about it. You're gonna meet people from different walks of life, people from different origins. So that's kind of like your time to shine. It's your time to say na, oy, taga Pilipinas ako, ito yung meron sa atin. Ito yung language, ito yung wika ko, ito yung mga pagkain namin, ito yung mga tradisyon namin. So just simply, even by just sharing, makipagkwento ka lang sa kanila, that's already a show of patriotism. You just don't realize it. So let's be like Catriona Gray in a way, you know? Like how she really represented us. We can do our own contribution. So that is my idea of patriotism. Let's not be blind. Let's just show what we really are. Simple as that. Be aware and show what we really are.
Yeah. So the next time you guys are proud of, say, Jordan Clarkson for being the first Philam NBA player, like, ask yourselves, are you really happy for him kasi nasa NBA siya na Pinoy? Or do you really appreciate like his backstory, his roots as a Filipino? Or the next time you patronize Jessica Sanchez for being the first runner-up of American Idol, like, do you really idolize her just because she's a Filipino contestant? Or do you really appreciate her origin story as a Filipino migrant who moved from, I think, Bataan ba yan? But somewhere there to San Diego, California. So it's really all about knowing the backstory and just doing further research rather than just pasting the name, Filipino yun, like kahit may American siya or Peruvian, whatever. It's really all about going deeper into our knowledge as far as knowing other people's cultures here and there. So with that,
it's a bad thing though. We just need to be more aware and not fall to that toxic trap. No? So it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing naman na parang to be proud of them, no. But let's just ask ourselves that question talaga. Na parang ano ba yung talagang pinagmamalaki natin bilang mga Pilipino. So it's not bad, I said, but let's just not fall into that trap. Let's not get carried away, so to speak.
Yes.
It's patriotism, but we have to be aware.
Yep, that is so true. So with that, that's gonna end our show for today. Again, Mark, maraming salamat talaga sa pagdalaw dito. I really enjoyed our conversation, and it's only fitting that we end the month with something Filipino-based, or the theme of this episode is based on our own Filipino culture. So, any last words before we wrap it up?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you. Maraming salamat sa pag-imbita sa akin sa iyong podcast. I really appreciate it. And one thing I just want to tell our viewers, especially our Filipino viewers, like guys, it's our time to shine. Like when I started traveling, I've been meeting people from different countries and different origins, different walks of life. And one thing I realized that the things that we usually take for granted kasi well, dito naman tayo sa Pilipinas, nakatira dito, kumakain naman tayo ng mga pagkain Pilipino, no? These things that we usually take for granted, talagang na-appreciate nila. As in like, a lot of my friends couldn't imagine, they really couldn't imagine bakit may champurrado, may chocolate na rice porridge. You know, these simple things lang. Like, they couldn't imagine na yung barong Tagalog galing pala siya sa pineapple leaves. Like, pineapple leaves, how could you make something out of pineapple leaves? Talagang na-amaze sila sa atin. These are the things that we take for granted, and nobody knows them more than we do. No, nobody knows them as much as we do. So it's just our time to shine. Guys, whenever you go out of the country, maski magtravel man kayo, you're bound to meet people from different countries. You're bound to meet people from different walks of life. Use that to just share what we really have. Just use that to share what we really have. That for me is patriotism. If we want to be proud of who we are, share what we really are. That's all.
Yeah, that's so true. So there you have it, guys. Basically, support local always, and never be shy of showcasing yourself to the world and just showing other people, whether here or abroad, kung gaano ka-rich or kung gaano masagana yung ating kultura dito sa Pilipinas. So, with that out of the way, do you have any links? Do you have any plugs that you would like to share to my followers in case they would like to follow you online, just check you out wherever? This is your chance to put your plugs here.
Honestly, like I just restarted my Instagram account. So siguro next time na lang. But you can follow me at mark.the.ethnographer on Instagram. It's actually new pa lang, so I don't have content pa because I had to restart everything all over again. Yeah. And one more thing, yeah, I think there's nothing else I'd like to add. Just a message of being aware of what we really are. Appreciate our multicultural heritage, our multicultural makeup, the things that really make us truly Filipino. We're just like this rainbow. If South Africa calls himself the Rainbow Nation, then tayo din. We also have our own rainbow. We also have our own Rainbow Nation. No? We're also a Rainbow Nation in a way. So it's like a tower of Jenga. If you take one block out, the whole thing collapses. Let's just be proud of who we are. Let's just be proud of who we are. Magtulungan tayo. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that's so true. So you can follow Mark on that account. I will link it later on in the description below and on my Facebook and IG.
Okay.
So if you want to follow me naman, for my podcast account on IG, it is at JOAT.pod.delro. Again, it is at JOAT.pod.delro. If you want to check out my personal IG, it is at Jake_Delro. If you want to check out my Twitter, it is at _Del_Ro_. If you want to check me out on Facebook, just type facebook.com/JOAT.pod.delro. Or if you just want to search it on the search tab, just type JakeOfAllTradesWithDelRo. This podcast can be streamed, advised, viewed, and listened to on the following platforms: Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Radio Public, Breaker, and on YouTube. With all those out of the way, I will try to say my outro in Filipino. Magtatapos na tayo, mga Delbros at sisters. Salamat sa pagtutok sa palabas na ito. Ito ay ang nag-iisang Delro. Ito ay ang nag-iisang Jake of all trades. At ako si Delro. Nagpapaalam. Hanggang sa susunod na usapan at chikahan, paalam at support natin yung local.